The New York Giants said enough is enough and fired Brian Daboll, but it's not enough. They should have fired Joe Schoen too. We'll talk about it here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I am Tony Wiggins, and it is your team every day here on the number one podcast network. It is Locked On NFL. We are a part of that network and proud of it. Number one, that's who we are. And we're going to show you why we're number one here today as my man Kevin Oestreicher joins me here on Locked On NFL as usual on Tuesdays. And we're going to use the local experts from around the National Football League that have their finger on the pulse of the team in their market to show you what is going on around the league with some of the biggest stories. Make sure you tap in. Shout out to the everydayers that join us. We absolutely appreciate that. We appreciate you all. Don't take you for granted. And if you're new, I'm glad, man. Welcome in to Locked On NFL. And hopefully, wherever you listen to podcasts, whether you watch or listen, you don't miss an episode like the one today that is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. All right, let me give you a bit of a roadmap to where we're going. We're going to start up in the great Northeast and talk about how the Patriots are real, and they are for real right now. Slide down 95 and then over I-75 to the Gulf Coast and talk about what is going on with Tampa. I had Tampa as an elite team. Don't know about that right now, but first we're going to start at the very top in New York City. The New York Giants fired Brian Daboll. I don't think it's enough. They should have fired Joe Schoen, but they said Joe Schoen is going to stay. Give me your opinion on that, Kevin Oestreicher.
Yeah, well, I agree with you on that, but I do want to say, if you listen to Locked On NFL and you listen to Tuesdays, I've been on here for I don't know how many months, Wig. I mean, I've been on the Brian Daboll fire train for years, but doing this with you and talking about it with you, seems like I've mentioned it at least once a month leading up to this, and so it just felt like the writing was on the wall. I think this was the right decision for the Giants. I also don't think Joe Schoen is the right man to lead them, but I guess, they made one right move. They got baby steps. You can get closer and closer to where you need to go here. Because again, like Joe Schoen is the guy who built this team, and Daboll, I'm sure, had input, but it's just interesting because the next coach is going to have to be someone that Joe Schoen likes, and he's going to be a part of that process. And then what if the owner decides, all right, well, actually, we don't really want you around anymore, Joe Schoen, and all of a sudden the coach was Joe Schoen hire, and you're like, oh, well, now you're just kind of stuck in a loop, and you're wasting more years. So the Daboll thing, it had to happen. I mean, I think this Giants team has a lot of potential. Like, if they have a couple of good off seasons over the next couple of seasons, I think they can really, especially with the way Jackson Dart has looked and Scatterboo before his injury, Neighbors coming back. Like, they have pieces here, and I'm actually excited about their future, and a lot more excited now at the fact that Daboll is gone. I'd be more excited if it was. But again, doing that during the season, a double fire during the season, it's not unheard of, but maybe they'll change their tune in the offseason, but seems pretty sure like it would.
Yeah, the Jaguars changed their tune in the offseason when they did that. They kept Trent Baalke for a few weeks until they realized that wasn't going to work out. They kind of hinted, though, that he's going to be the dude that's going to stay and help them pick the new coach. And to me, that sounds like they're not getting rid of him. Let's listen to Patricia Traynor from Locked On Giants.
The New York Giants have fired head coach Brian Daboll following yet another catastrophic loss, which really left the team with little choice given how the 2025 season has continued to evolve. Daboll was hired by the Giants in 2022 and led the team to its first postseason berth since 2016 and its first postseason win since 2011, both of which were good enough for him to get AP Coach of the Year. But after getting the team to a 7-2 start in that first season, the Giants would only go on to win 2 more regular season games, finishing with a 9-7-1 record. The ensuing years were all downhill for Daboll, whose Giants have won just 11 games in the last 3 seasons while losing 33, including a franchise-worst 3-14 season last year. Tucked amongst those losses are the longest road losing streak at 11 and the longest overall losing streak at 10 in Giants history. The Giants defense has now collapsed 4 times this season, all on the road, failing to finish out the games in what has just been a catastrophic season for the New York Giants. Now,
listen, man, I've been saying for a long time that the possible biggest indictment, Saquon Barkley is one thing. He's a running back. You didn't want to pay him fine. The biggest indictment of Brian Daboll is the fact that their quarterback, Daniel Jones, is now 8-2 in Indianapolis. And some people had him in the MVP category. Why is he successful outside of New York? Why is he successful away from you? That is the big thing. The other thing is it's been 4 times since their rookie quarterback has had evaluations for concussions. And I can't get out of my mind him going ballistic trying to rush that kid out of the tent. You can't sacrifice your players, man, just to save your job. And I think it just leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth when they haven't won the games, but then you get stuff like that. It's time to just make a change.
There were signs throughout this whole thing. Remember when Don Martindale was their DC and he was like, was he going to stay? Was he going to go? Like, what's going on? It just felt like there was disorganization. And Joe Schoen is a big part of that as well. But you're right. Like, that whole concussion thing was the final, nail in the coffin 10 times.
It didn't look head coachy. It didn't look head coachy, did it?
It's and that is where, like, as a young player, you're supposed to trust your head coach that they're looking out for you and doing what's best for you, not just on the football field, but off of it for your health. Like, that's a young player should be able to trust their head coach. And in that moment, Brian Daboll breached that trust in the biggest way possible, and in a way that's unacceptable, not just in a football sense, but just in a human sense.
being. That's right.
It's unbelievable. So this was, again, I'll say it over and over again, it was the right decision. They should have done it before the season started, because now you're getting this thing of like, and again, I think that Jackson Dart is going to be in New York for a long time based off what he's shown, but you do always run that risk of like what happened with when Kingsbury came in and with the Cardinals all those years ago when they took Josh Rosen, and then Kingsbury comes in and is like, I don't like Josh Rosen. All of a sudden you waste the top 10 pick or whatever it was. So you always run that risk. Now you got to rebuild.
Yep, you do have to rebuild. Speaking of rebuilding, go across the river. I guess you can go across the river. They play in the same building, but the New York Jets made some bold moves and won a game afterwards. In fact, it's 2 in a row for the New York Jets. We talk bad about them when they do bad stuff, which is most of the time. So now we got to talk good about them right here. Here's my man, John Butchko from Locked On Jets.
A wild Jets week ends in a wild Jets victory. The Jets beat the Cleveland Browns 27-20 in Week 10 action, just days after the team traded away 2-star players at the trade deadline. Sauce Gardner's now a Colt. Quinnen Williams is now a Cowboy. The Jets got their second straight win. The team got big plays when they needed them. There was a kickoff return for a touchdown in the first half. There was a punt return for a touchdown in the first half. And in the second half, the Jets reminded us that even though a lot of talent left the team this week, there are still some quality players left on this roster. Breece Hall took the game over in the second half, including a huge touchdown catch that put the Jets ahead. Will McDonald had 4 sacks. Even though a lot of fans want the Jets to lose for draft positioning, this game reminded us that these guys are still going to compete hard the rest of the way, and there are going to be some wins.
Funny how that works. They actually did get rid of their 2 best players, and all of a sudden everybody woke up. I guess they feel like if you could do it to them, you'll do it to me too.
Yeah, and hey, you and I almost had more passing yards than Justin Fields did in that game, and they still won. So you got to play Breece Hall, play your best players, see what. And this is the time where, like, the Jets, they're winning games. Yes, we know they're not making the playoffs. We know this is a year where they're retooling, rebuilding, like we talked about. Just see what you have in these young guys, because you know what? These young guys are fighting for jobs. They're fighting for opportunities for next season. Maybe it won't be with the Jets, but they're fighting to just put tape out there that's good and show, hey, I belong, And that, to me, I think is one of the big things. You give younger guys opportunities, and sometimes just by the sheer power of, hey, I'm going to outplay you today. Maybe it's a veteran team that looks at that roster and is like, oh, okay. All right, let's go. And then, they come out of the gate really fast. Then, the other team's on the back foot. You're like, whoa, wait a second. Every team, it feels like, has a loss every year where it's a team that they should have easily beaten. And the Jets are one of those teams that I feel like over the course of the rest of the season can play spoiler a couple of times this year. I don't expect them to win every game. I don't expect them to look impressive or anything like that. But, I do think that we've seen some positive signs. And again, for a team that just hired a new coach, this is what you want to see from Aaron Glenn and this team. Him rallying his guys, saying, hey, look, we just traded away two of our core star defensive members. That doesn't mean that we can't win games. That doesn't mean that, that I don't believe in you, essentially is what the message should be from Aaron Glenn. And I like that because you can take away those positives into next season, even if your record doesn't end up panning out in a great way, which I don't expect it will. It's already not. You still can take those positives, which I think is a really big thing for a Jets team that, again, is looking to start a new era with a new coach.
Learning how to win is a part of your rebuilding process, and some people want to put that off and tank for draft picks. You're going to have to learn how to win at some point. You might as well do it in a year when you know you're not going to be any good. Tampa was thought to be good, but they've been in a little bit of a slump. We'll discuss that more here in just a second on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried in hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mass of disconnected tools with only systems designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnfl. By unifying your employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos your software created. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnfl. That's rippling.com/lockedonnfl for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's show is also sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game and want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game very, very exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving all new customers $300 in bonus bets when you first bet $5. When your first $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I got my man Kevin Oestreicher riding shotgun with me here on Locked On NFL. The Bucks. Tampa was one of those teams, man. I had them right there at the beginning of the year with Philly, Detroit, and the Rams. As of late, though, they haven't looked good. I know they lost Mike Evans, but they were playing without Mike Evans last year, and they made a playoff run. Emeka Egbuka has been really, really good and outstanding, but something just doesn't seem right the way we're used to seeing Tampa play. Here is my man James Yarko from Locked On Bucks.
The bye week did not get the offense right for the Buccaneers. I am James Yarko, host of Locked On Bucks, talking about the Buccaneers' 28-23 loss to the New England Patriots in the offense after an opening drive touchdown that saw Emeka Egbuka reach the end zone for the sixth time this season. It looked anemic. There's no other way to put it. Meanwhile, the Patriots offense, led by rookie running back Travion Henderson, who had touchdown runs of 69 and 55 in the game, were able to get a massive road win to move to 8-2. This Patriots team is for real, and the Bucs defense gave up some uncharacteristic explosive plays, while the offense still can't seem to get things figured out, even with the return of Luke Gedeke, missing Bucky Irving, missing Mike Evans, missing Chris Godwin. This team still has not found a way to truly be who they are capable of being without those key players on the field. Baker Mayfield was off for much of the game, finished with 273 and 3 touchdowns, but it did not look as good as what the stats would say. For more on this and all things Buccaneers, check out the Locked On Bucs podcast 5 days a week, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Tampa spoiled us a little bit last year because they made that run despite being down all the way to their third and fourth wide receiver for the majority of the run late in the year. But this is a new year. Those injuries are really, really affecting the offense this year.
Yeah, it's for sure the injuries. I mean, you talk about Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving, the offensive line issues.
Elijah Cansey,
yeah. I mean, it's all over the place, and it's tough because injuries can lower your. I mean, they do. They lower your floor and your ceiling with every single one. And Tampa just really hasn't been able to get into a groove that way. Now, again, like Baker Mayfield having a great year. You mentioned Ibuka's having a great year as well, but they're not a great rushing offense. A lot of that has to do with Irving not being in there and the offensive line stuff. They're just, they're kind of middling. And I think that like by default, they're going to make the playoffs because their division is just so bad. I mean, Carolina's that one team you're looking at right now. And it's like, hey, Carolina, maybe that's the team, but I just, they need to get their guys back. But the problem is some of them aren't coming back and others, it will be later in the year. Will they have enough time? I mean, again, like if Mike Evans is able to return before the postseason starts, Mike Evans has played in enough football games to get back on track without having to, get back into a groove or whatnot. But for maybe some of the younger players, it's tough. So Tampa to me is an interesting team. I mean, I had them, especially earlier in the season, like, all right, hey, this is one of those teams that's going to be challenging Philly in the NFC. Like that's a team that you can put in there. They're definitely a couple tiers further down on that list now that we've had about 10 weeks of watching.
No doubt about that. And speaking of another team that's been a huge disappointment, the team that beat Tampa last year in the playoffs, the Washington Commanders really, really reached out and tried to go for it, if you will. They've had some injuries too, but they have another issue on that team, and that is that their outlook isn't as bright because they have a lot of old players. They got like the oldest roster in the National Football League. I don't think they have enough young glue guys. I think they're another draft and offseason away from getting this thing back on track. Here's my man, David Harrison, who will be here with me tomorrow on Wednesday on Locked On NFL. But here's David Harris from Locked On Commanders.
When it rains, it pours. And as you can see from the pouring out of Commanders fans behind me with about 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter of Week 10, the Washington Commanders losing streak not only is going to continue, but in many ways is actually going to get worse. Several more players injured in this game, likely at least a couple of them, if not more, will miss at least extended time, potentially next week's game in Spain against the Washington Commanders. But of course, the biggest situation developed around the Washington Commanders is just how do you get this team that just went to the NFC Championship game less than a year ago to come out and simply play competitive football. The question isn't even necessarily about breaking the losing streak. It's just about being competitive. It's about the lowest we've seen this franchise fall, at least from the heights that they were to now. And answers continue to evade Dan Quinn and his squad. So we'll find out what he's going to say. We'll find out what they're going to do next week and then on into the future. We'll be here for every step of the way on Locked On Commanders 5 days a week, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I was afraid for Dan Quinn for this reason. He's a good guy. I met Dan Quinn when he was coaching in Dallas, and he played here in Jacksonville, and we had some kind words near the elevator of the press box. And I like Dan Quinn, but the fear, especially amongst people who followed him in Atlanta, was they're going to be better than you think early because of the way he coaches and how he leads. But then they're going to fall off. And that's what happened in Atlanta. They went to the Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden, everything started to get stale, and they fell off, and then it didn't look like they had any answers. And it looks like that's what's going on in Washington, too.
Yeah, this was always going to be an issue for them. And again, I remember talking about this with you on the show. I definitely before the season, and even after the playoffs ended for the Commanders last year, where I was just like, it's unfair to too quickly judge Jaden Daniels in this, especially Jaden Daniels, because, after them making the championship game last season, there was always a chance of regression. But that's natural when, as a rookie quarterback, you make the NFC Championship game. But the problem is the way that they've looked at times this season. We know the injuries have been tough, and that's another one of the reasons. But it doesn't shock me because the Commanders coming into this year were the oldest roster in the NFL. And, you look at Jaden Daniels like, oh, they have such a young quarterback, like they're so set up for the future. Yeah, at that position, but you have a long way to go in terms of building out the rest of your roster. And you mentioned them going for it, making the trades for Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel. And again, not young players that you're looking at. And you got guys like Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz and, Terry McLaurin's 30 now. You have a long way to go here. And it's not just going to be a 1 year, all right, hey, let's rebuild this whole thing and we're good to go. You're going to have guys who are declining and you have these big contracts on your books. You're going to have guys that retire and leave voids. You're going to have to figure out, you're going to have to hit on your draft picks and sign younger players. So, it's been tough for them. And I think, again, the Commanders' vision was, okay, we have an old roster, but they're going to be in the hunt and competitive again. But with Daniels being in and out of the lineup, McLaurin being in and out of the lineup, some of the issues they've had in particular, it's been kind of this perfect storm of, well, you're not going to compete this year. And moving forward, you have a lot of work to do to build this roster out around your young quarterback.
No doubt about that. We got the two P's that we're going to look at. The Patriots, who are for real, and the Packers, who my man Peter Bukowski says are a joke. We'll talk about them and more here in the third and final segment of Locked On NFL.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, Tony Wiggins here, rolling along on Locked On NFL. The New England Patriots are for real. This is not, okay, yeah, they're up and coming. No, they come out ready to play and ready to fire on all cylinders. I expected Mike Vrabel to do well. I did not expect him to be this good this early because the offensive line was so bad last year. Here's my man Nick Cattles with Locked On Patriots.
The Patriots improved to 5-0 on the road. That's right. They have more road wins in their first 5 games this season than they had total wins in both 2023 and 2024. That's outrageous. Big day for the rookies. Kyle Williams, 72-yard touchdown, catch and run. Just tremendous play from the rookie. Great throw by Drake Maye. And then Travion Henderson, not one, but 2 explosive big-time house calls in the running game. So you got that explosivity from your rookies. Mac Hollins was quietly good. 6 catches, 106 yards, and the defense did just enough after giving up yet another opening drive touchdown to an offense. But hey, Patriots are 8-2, and they now play Thursday night against the Jets to try to improve to 9-2. The Buffalo Bills lost, so pretty much up 2 games in the division now in the AFC East. Stay right here. Locked On Patriots with Nick Cattles every single day, Monday through Friday. We break down the Patriots as they continue to be one of the best teams in football.
Yes, sir. They are that. And them going on the road doing that tells you that Mike Vrabel has those guys ready to fight as soon as the whistle blows each and every week.
Yeah, and look, it's a multi-unit effort. I mean, offensively, we know Drake Maye is having an incredible season. You finally got Travion Henderson going in this game, this last one, and that was really cool to see. And I think that a lot of people had question marks about the Patriots wide receivers. All right, you bring in Stephon Diggs, but who else is going to step up in that room? But you have a lot of, unsung players that might not be household names who are just making plays for him. And it's been really cool to watch, Will Campbell, who they invested in the O-line with Will Campbell. I know there were those other questions coming into the season, but that's something that they've had to work through, and it's, ended up working out in their favor. One, because just Drake Maye has been that good this season where at some points it hasn't even mattered. So defensively, they're an incredible run defense too. They're top 5 in that category as well. So it's been everywhere for them. And again, like Mike Vrabel, him coming in, and I agree with you. Like I thought the Vrabel hire, it just felt like it had a floor, but that ceiling that we're seeing is the thing that's shocking. Of like that floor was always going to be there, but you're seeing like the guys rallying around him. And it's funny because Vrabel, like his style feels like it's the Patriots zagged all the way over this direction. Everybody else is going in the direction of, hey, we need the hottest young coordinator, the offensive genius, right? That's the guy that everybody's going to hire. Patriots said, no, we're going back to what was popular 10 years ago, and it's working. So shout out to them.
Yeah, leader of men. They need a football coach, a leader of men. Their T's are crossed and their I's are dotted. And I tell you what, man, they are right now leading in the AFC East. They might have home field advantage for the entire AFC, and that's something that we thought we had. We thought we were done with that after 20 years of that. New England having the home field advantage, but it hasn't been that long. 5-6 years since Brady left, and they're right back, all due to another legacy Patriot. All right, Peter Bukowski. We talked yesterday about the loss the Packers suffered. No, actually, we didn't. We previewed the game. We didn't preview the loss. Tyler Rowland did that, or review the loss. Tyler Rowland did that. Downright offensive. Not really, but the offense was so bad it was offensive, as only Peter Bukowski can do from Locked On Packers. Here he is.
After a loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, it's clear the Green Bay Packers are not Super Bowl caliber quality right now, and the biggest reason is Matt LaFleur. I'm Peter Bukowski, host of Locked On Packers, and the Packers lost their 3rd game this season, holding an opponent to 16 points or fewer. They hold the explosive Philadelphia Eagles offense to 10 points, and they cannot win at home, and it is coaching, offensive coaching in particular, over and over, that has crushed this team. It has been conservative play calls on first down, the early down runs, first down run after first down run. It was run pass the whole first half from Matt LaFleur. It was questionable decisions on 4th down and plus territory, 4th and 2, and you're punting instead of going for it. This team is only going to go as far as Matt LaFleur lets them go, and right now, he is holding this team back. The good news is this defense reminded us all it is a Super Bowl caliber unit holding.
Hey man, Green Bay got some issues. They can't score points. It's like when you have a team with defense that good, you ought to be taking advantage of it, and they are absolutely not. And very, very disappointing effort last night.
Peter was not kidding about those first days. If you follow Peter on social media, every single first down run, he was letting it be known. He was calling it before it was happening. It was so obvious, and that's predictable play calling. Jordan Love hasn't met the moment at times this season, which has been tough because I think the Green Bay was expecting more consistency from him. They've had to deal with working through wide receiver issues again with Jaden Reed being out and, Christian Watson coming back and, Matthew Golden still being a young guy. Now they don't have Tucker Kraft anymore. So that's a big blow to their offense. Josh Jacobs has been good for them, but again, they just have limited weapons right now on the offensive side of the ball. And, when you hold the Eagles to
10 points,
I mean, you're gonna win. You have to win that game. You're supposed to win that game. And the fact that you didn't, you do need to really look yourself in the mirror because, you're also in a division that, these teams aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Detroit's going to be a problem for a while. Minnesota and Chicago are hoping their young quarterbacks can continue to step up and be good players for them. So Green Bay was one of those teams that I think was expected to take a leap this season where I think it's frustrating because we've seen it from them. We've seen the potential of who they can be, especially Jordan Love in particular, but it just doesn't happen as much as it needs to happen to be a true Super Bowl contender. And like, you can make the playoffs and be a wild card team or whatever it may be, but if you're losing in the wild card round or divisional round every season, is that really your goal? Like, is that really the goal you want to have for your ceiling? I mean, that's the conversation you have to have.
You do have to have the conversation, because one thing you have to be able to do in playoff football, you have to be able to score points, because teams are going to put that pressure on you. You don't have any pressure on you to watch Locked On NFL. We like you to do that voluntarily. And we give you 2 chances to do it twice a day. Tyler rolling early in the morning, and then me, like you're watching right now in the barbershop, where we go around the league with the help of local experts as well as a co-host. And that allows us to have our finger on the pulse of each team by using local experts from the #1 podcast network, sports podcast network, and that is Locked On. All right, we thank you for joining us. Kevin and I don't take you for granted, right? Smack at 32 minutes today. We don't take you for granted. Well, 31 minutes. We don't take it for granted. We'll see you next time here on Locked On NFL.